Homesteaders, gardeners, and cooks. My name is Jennifer. Welcome to Miles Away Farm. Thanks for joining me in my kitchen. Today we are making a beet salad. And if you are the kind of person who knows that you should eat beets because they're really good for you and they're super healthy, but you struggle with the flavor, I hear you. It has taken me probably close to 20 years to get to the point where I eat beets on a somewhat regular basis. They are not my favorites, but they are really fun to grow and they are super healthy, and I have found ways to incorporate them into my diet. One of the tricks to that, if you've got a vegetable that you really struggle with, is to just keep trying it. Try different things, try different recipes, try different methods of cooking. And eventually, hopefully, you'll land on something that you like. Just like with little kids, when you're introducing them to a vegetable, they say you need to introduce it to them 10 times before you can really decide, and they can really decide that they truly don't like it. It takes a while sometimes to just let your palate adjust and get used to something and decide, oh, okay, yeah, I can eat this. This is okay. So beets for a long time were just a hard no. And I think my main exposure to them at the time was one of those big old Sizzler type salad bars where they came out of a can and they were just kind of gross. And so then I tried them boiled. I'm not a huge fan. I've tried them roasted. I do like them better roasted, and that is the preparation we're going to use here today. But my favorite way of eating them is whatever way you cook them through and then putting them into a salad. Because the nice thing about a salad is that you can contrast that earthy, deep flavor of those beets with a lot of other strong flavors, and they hold up really well to a lot of strong flavors. And so, contrasting that earthy flavor with something a little bit sweet, with something a little bit acidic, with something that's also strongly flavored like an allium, so a garlic or an onion or a shallot, that can go a long way. And then also contrasting with something, usually a nut, and then usually a cheese. Any beet recipe you look for in terms of a beet salad, they're all going to have those things in common. It's going to involve beets, some kind of acid, usually some kind of nut or some other contrasting crunch, and then something a little bit sweet. So you'll see it mixed with orange, you'll see it mixed with other kinds of citrus, you'll see it mixed with dried fruits. And then nut-wise, I've done it with almonds, I've done it with pistachios. In this particular recipe, I'm using cashews, but lots of different options there. And then often cheese. And you can go with a nice creamy cheese that's got a little tang to it, like a goat cheese, or you can do something that's a little bit sharper. So like a really good sharp cheddar, a manchego, a really good aged Parmesan, something with a little bit of funk. Again, beets stand up well to other strong flavors. If you don't mix them with other strong flavors, they just kind of dominate absolutely everything. So you can mix and match this recipe in a million different ways. This particular recipe, I think I ran across this on my cousin's Facebook page, and she had just posted it saying, hey, this sounds like a good recipe. And it was super simple. And I made it because I happen to have some beets on hand, and I like the combination, and then I've just added to it from there in terms of what I like. Serious Eats has 3 different really good, interesting beet salad recipes that are all different from each other. Some with hard-boiled eggs in it, some with ricotta cheese, some with goat cheese. So take a look at those as well if you're comparing and contrasting. But yeah, beet salad is super healthy and can be quite delicious, especially if you roast the beets. Let's get started. It is early April of 2023, so this is a storage beet. This is not a fresh beet. And because it's a storage beet, and also because it is huge, it's bigger than my fist. Normally when I roast beets, I just roast them whole and then peel them. But in this case, because this has been in storage all winter, and because it's so big and it's not gonna roast easily whole, it would take an hour and a half at least to roast this if you were to roast it whole. I'm gonna peel it, cut it up, and then roast it. So I wanted to show you what that process looked like. So I'm just gonna take the skin off of this. And I've got one that I've already done here. And one of the things I noticed in the one that I already did was there was a bit of a bad spot in it that I would not necessarily have noticed had I not peeled it. But you figure these beets were probably harvested in maybe November. I bought them through a food hub from another farm. And so they've been in storage in a walk-in cooler all winter. And they're a little worse for wear, but they hold up really well. Certain vegetables like beets and cabbage and carrots do really well in cold storage. And so these have been in storage for a while. This one looks really good. looks like a big giant heart, doesn't it? I'm just gonna cut this up into bite-sized pieces because ultimately I'm gonna make a beet salad out of it. And so I want these to be in bite-sized pieces for that salad. So I figure I might as well roast them to the size that I'm gonna use them. I finally have kind of run to the end of my own stored produce. I have a little bit left, but not much, and I'm just so hungry for something that isn't what's already in my freezer. So I finally decided that I needed to get out of my own self-imposed pantry challenge and actually order some produce from some other local farms that had better storage than I did. So that's what I did. It's always a challenge to try to cut into even pieces something that is this size and round. So are you guys beet eaters? I have really spent the last 20 years trying to learn to love beets, and I still don't love them. I like them. They're okay. I've had beet salads that I've really enjoyed, but it's taken me a lot of years. I like them pickled, and I do make a pickled beet. We'll probably do a video on that later this year. So I like a pickled beet on a salad if it's got some nice spices in it. But just plain old beets, I think it's one of those things that you either have a taste for or you don't. Okay, so I've got my beets. What I'm gonna do here, I like to do these kind of things in my toaster oven because it is a lot less energy to heat up a toaster oven than it is to heat up a full-sized oven. This is just olive oil. I'm gonna give a nice good drizzle. And then this is just my all-purpose seasoning. Salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little bit of paprika. Just gonna give everything in here a nice toss. And when you roast a beet, it brings out the sweetness. So they tend to be a little bit sweeter if you roast them versus boiling them. And then of course, if you boil them, they lose a lot of their color. They bleed a lot. And so I think nutritionally, you're just gonna be better if you roast rather than boil as well. That's a big pile of beets for 2 beets, my goodness. I thought I was gonna wrap this up, but I think I'm gonna need a second piece of tin foil to make a bit of a packet here. And what you wanna do is crimp your foil so that you're able to capture the steam that's generated as these are roasting. All right, so there we go. And I'm just gonna put this in a 425 toaster oven for about 45 minutes. All right, there we go. Let's see if this is done. Look at those beauties. So just like with potatoes, you want a knife to go in. Yeah, these could probably use another 15 minutes. They're tender, but they're not super tender. Not bad though. All right, we gave those another 15 minutes. Woo. Nice and hot. Yeah, that's about as good as those are gonna get. Beautiful. I'm gonna let these cool, throw them in the fridge, and then I will actually make the beet salad that they're gonna be in tomorrow. This is one of my last shallots from last year that I grew from seed last year. This was a teeny tiny one. For this beet salad, I wanted a little bit of onion in there of some kind. And since I have these shallots, I'm gonna go ahead and use them. I always say that shallots taste a little bit like an onion and garlic had a baby. So they can be a little bit sweeter and a little bit more pungent than a typical onion. And it's very common to put them in vinaigrettes, especially French vinaigrettes. So I think it's gonna be a nice flavor to go into our beet salad. The original recipe doesn't call for this. I like beets with strong flavors. And so a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion, something along those lines, definitely my preference to help balance that very strong earthy taste that beets have. Whew, that is a surprisingly strong shallot considering that it is at least 6 months old. I'm making my eyes burn. All right, that's enough. We don't need to juice super, super fine. And I'm just gonna make the dressing for this in the bottom of this bowl and mix it up and then put everything else in. And that way I don't have to do a separate bowl. 1/4 cup of olive oil, and this is some beautiful extra virgin olive oil that a friend of mine brought me back from Seattle just recently. I don't usually use olive oil that's quite this hoity-toity, but it's gonna be perfect in this particular recipe. And this ratio, we're doing a 1/4 cup of olive oil and then 2 tablespoons, which is 1/8 of a cup of lemon juice. That's not an unusual ratio for any kind of salad dressing or vinaigrette. So 2 parts oil to 1 part acid. And that is what we're doing here, so makes perfect sense. The recipe calls for lemon juice. I happen to have these Meyer lemons, and I've made many a beet salad with orange. Meyer lemons are a little bit like a lemon crossed with maybe a tangerine, I forget, but something a little more on the orange end of the citrus. And so that will add a little sweetness and be a welcome flavor in there. I imagine this is gonna come out to be about 2 tablespoons, so I'm just gonna eyeball this. And I like a lot of acid, so if it's a little acidic, it's not gonna bother me. You'll see that trick that I just did there. This press works really well, but it doesn't completely crush things, and so I like to either fold over the citrus or put both halves in there to get the last of it out. And then 2 tablespoons of honey. And I heated this honey up in the microwave just so it would be easy to mix and pour. So this is gonna be pretty sweet, but again, that earthy flavor, not gonna hurt that to be on the sweet side. And then it doesn't call for it, but I am gonna put a little bit of Dijon in there, mostly to act as an emulsifier, and also because I don't think kind of making a honey mustard at this point, that flavor will be good. We'll say I want the dressing to emulsify, and that mustard is gonna help emulsify it. I'm guessing a pinch of salt and pepper is gonna be welcome here. And I would encourage you guys to play around with making your own salad dressing. It's really super easy. And once you've learned the basics, which is basically that 2-to-1 ratio of oil and acid, the world is your oyster. You can do so many different things. You don't have to buy the bottled stuff at the store. You save a ton of money, and you can just customize it however you like. I mostly eat balsamic. I am a huge balsamic vinaigrette person. I feel like that onion needs to sit and percolate in there a bit. So here are our beautiful beets that we roasted, and these have actually been in my fridge for a couple of days. And this was 2 beets, but they were absolutely gigantic. So this is probably several pounds of beet. And I'm just gonna toss everything in this vinaigrette and let everything kind of start to marry. And this should be a little bit soupy because this is gonna go over spinach and it's gonna be the dressing for the whole salad. So it's all right if it's a little bit liquidy in there. That's good, okay. Also gonna wanna add here, all right, I need about a 1/4 cup of dried cranberries. Just gonna eyeball that. Make two stuck together. And then about a half a cup of roasted cashews. And then some beautiful goat cheese. This is goat cheese from Lost Peacock Creamery out of Olympia, Washington. And I have actually been following this farm since before they were certified to make cheese. It started out because she's a graphic design person and a photographer, and her photographs of farming were so beautiful. And I was just immediately smitten by her beautiful, beautiful photographs of her kid and of her farm. Kid at the time, she's got 2 now. And so started following her on Facebook and have been following her ever since. And that's gotta be, I would guess, close to 10 years, if not more. And it turns out that the goat cheese that they make is incredible. And the only time I'd ever been able to try it, it's actually available at the airport in the Bleecher Street cheese place in Seattle. And I bought some there and brought it home. And so I was finally able to try it after following this farm forever. And it's delicious. And then just recently, the food hub that I sell my own products to has started to carry their cheese as part of our local food hub, because the guy who runs that has been going back and forth and doing trips to the Seattle area and one of the co-ops over there. And so suddenly I'm able to get Lost Peacock goat cheese, which is incredible. So very excited about that. Okay. So I'm just gonna gently stir this in. I want there to be some chunks. I don't want this to be completely creamed out, although it's pretty soft. So there's a good possibility that it will be by the time I'm done. But that's it for the salad. And then I'm just gonna put that over a bed of spinach greens. And that is gonna be the salad that we're gonna have with dinner. Oh wait, and I need a nut too. I gotta get the full experience. It's really just a delightful combination. You've got the creaminess and the little bit of tang from the goat cheese, that great crunch from the cashews, the earthiness of the beets, the brightness of the lemon, the little bit of sweetness from the honey and also from the cranberries, which is different from the honey. Yeah, absolutely delicious. That's all there is to it, you guys. Beets, super healthy for you and quite delicious if you cook them correctly. Give it a try. Thanks for watching, Tribe. If you like this kind of content, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I have new content coming out every week.